WSOC tonight, two big moves by North Carolina's governor to curb the spike in coronavirus cases. One, he's hitting the pause button on reopening. And two, he's issuing a mask mandate.
We're adding this new requirement because we don't want to go backward.
So where will you have to wear a mask and how will it be enforced? We're digging into the details of the mandate and what happens if people don't comply. Plus, phase 3 put on hold, putting an even further strain on businesses struggling to survive.
People are out of money, we're out of time, we don't have any other options left.
New tonight, we're learning one business owner who's fed up and tired of waiting, so he's taking action. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Erica Bryant. Now, that statewide mask mandate will begin in North Carolina on Friday at 5 p.m. That's the same day that many had hoped that phase 3 would begin. Well, just within the past 90 minutes, the state updated its guidance for our schools, saying that masks will now be required for all staff, visitors, high school and middle school students, but not elementary school students. Masks will also be required on school buses. Now here's a look at the latest COVID-19 data. Cases and hospitalizations continue to rise in North Carolina. Today, the state reported more than 1,700 new cases in just the past 24 hours. That's the second highest one-day increase since the pandemic began. And across the country, numbers are climbing. Today, the U.S. as a whole saw its highest single-day increase in 2 months, which was the height of the pandemic. And new tonight, we're learning a legislative push to reopen gyms and bars in North Carolina has failed. In a vote, the state house failed to override the governor's veto of a bill that would have allowed those businesses to reopen. So we've got a lot to dive into tonight. Our Glenn Counts will get into the pause on reopening, Aaron Edwards on enforcing the mask mandate. But we begin with our Joe Bruno breaking down exactly what the new rules will be. Joe?
Erica, there are numerous exceptions to the mask mandate, ranging from if you have a medical condition that prevents you from wearing one, you don't have to put one on. And if you lose your kid in a store and you have to try to find them, you don't have to have one on as you look for them. But don't get me wrong, in most cases you will be required to wear a mask, and in some cases it'll take some getting used to.
You can't eat or drink with a mask on, that's obvious. But according to the state's new executive order that takes effect Friday, North Carolinians will have to wear a mask anytime they are not at their table, like walking to be seated or getting up to go to the bathroom. Whether you are shopping in a grocery store or at a department store, masks will be required starting Friday at 5. If you're in a salon or a tattoo parlor, you'll need to keep one on your face too, unless the area under your mask is what's being serviced. A lot of the burden will be on businesses to enforce this, but Governor Roy Cooper says in the long run they will benefit.
Required face coverings not only cause zero harm to our economy, they in fact help our economy by making it safer to shop, do business, and keep our small businesses running.
Now, when we talk about a mask mandate, we are not just talking about the things you would expect to see in a doctor's office. The state defines a face covering as a covering of the nose and mouth that is secured to the head with ties, straps, or loops over the ears, or is simply wrapped around the lower face. Acceptable face coverings can be factory made, sewn by hand, or even improvised from things like scarves, bandanas, t-shirts, sweatshirts, or a towel. It's important to note there are numerous exceptions to the mandate. They include medical or behavioral conditions, kids under 11, eating and drinking, strenuous exercise, when communicating with someone hearing impaired, and when giving speeches for broadcast or for an audience. The executive order says people are to abide by the honor system when it comes to not wearing masks. The state is trusting that people aren't wearing them for the right reasons. Leaders say the science is clear. The more people that wear them today, the better we'll be tomorrow.
Face coverings only fully work when we all do it. If each person commits to wearing a face covering, we can stabilize our COVID-19 trends.
Well, Joe, a lot of rules around this. So many people are wondering, do we know yet how long this part of the mandate will be in place?
Erica, the governor's order keeps this mandate in place until July 17th, but it can be extended. Certainly the trend across the country right now is not to rescind these things, so it's safe to assume that this is our new normal for the indefinite future. Now, on my Twitter, there is an 18-tweet thread that gets into the nitty-gritty of this executive order. It has everything you would want to know about this mask mandate. That's on my Twitter at Joe Bruno, WSOC9. Erica?
Thank you, Joe. Always on top of it. Well, as the state announced the new mask mandate, Atrium announced that it is partnering with several companies to try to make sure that everyone has a face covering. From the Carolina Panthers to Lowe's to Wells Fargo and more, all of these companies coming together to donate 1 million masks to underserved communities across the state. Well, now to the other part of the governor's big announcement today, that pause on our reopening. We will now remain in phase 2 until at least July 17th, and a lot of businesses just aren't happy about this. Our Glenn Counts is continuing our coverage tonight, and Glenn, the business owners you talk with tonight, they're either taking the governor to court or they plan to ignore him altogether.
Well, Erica, we are here at Victory Lanes here in Mooresville, and the owner was hoping that the governor would allow him to reopen on Friday. The answer he got was no. Well, guess what? He plans to reopen anyway, and tonight we got a sneak peek at what that will look like at a private event tonight. What could be more normal than the sound of a bowling alley? It's a sound that a lot of people have missed.
It was worth the drive for 2 hours to come down here, almost 2 hours to throw some balls.
Where did you come from?
We came from Burlington.
Michael Falk and his wife Kristen received an invitation to this private event, and they couldn't wait to jump in the car.
I rolled over at about 3 o'clock, and I came back into bed, and she's like, we're going bowling tomorrow. I'm like, I'm asleep. What do you mean we're going bowling?
Paul Cryans has owned Victory Lane since 2017. He's a former pro who loves the sport.
I don't think that Rod Serling or Stephen King could have written this story.
But his coronavirus shutdown nightmare just got worse when today the governor blocked bowling alleys and other businesses from reopening because North Carolina has not bent the curve enough.
You can't convince me that a tiny little restaurant where you can't even get 6 feet away from another customer is somehow safer than a 48,000 square foot building where we can easily practice social distancing.
Governor Cooper has effectively signed a death warrant for many bar owners across North Carolina.
The Bar and Tavern Association was also furious with Cooper's decision delaying reopening. Bar owners don't think it's fair that restaurants that have bars can open and they can't.
We are just as capable of enforcing social distancing and mask requirements as any of the other bars that are currently allowed to operate.
Cryans says he's had enough of the double standard and plans to open his bowling alley on Friday, whether the government agrees with him or not.
I've been saying there's phase 1, there's phase 2, and there's phase enough is enough.
Well, Glenn, looking at the owners and their lawsuit, they sued the governor over this as well.
Yeah, that is correct. Those bar owners did sue, and they had a hearing on that last week. And right now, basically all the parties are just waiting for the judge to come out with a ruling. Now, there's no set date or time for that ruling to come out. It could happen sometime this week. It could happen sometime next week.
All right, and we did talk about earlier today, though, that the override the legislation failed, but again, still waiting on the outcome of that lawsuit, too. Thank you, Glenn. Well, meanwhile, Governor Cooper made it clear today that in phase 3, he hopes to ease restrictions on playgrounds, museums, and gyms coming up on July the 17th. He did not mention anything more about bars for that date. Well, now back to the mask mandate and the issue that has been a top concern from the very beginning, how to enforce that. Our Aaron Edwards is here with a deeper dive into what that will look like. Aaron?
Erica, for months we've heard state and local leaders say to wear a mask, but one of the main issues holding them back from a mandate was enforcement. Now we know it'll be the business's responsibility to make you comply, or they could be the ones facing a citation. North Carolina is now joining 16 other states that require face masks in public.
We're adding this new requirement because we don't want to go backward.
With this change, one of the big questions is how will this be enforced? I reached out to CMPD to find out if citations will be given out to those who aren't wearing masks. They say citations won't be given to individuals.
Law enforcement can cite the business for failing to have employees and customers in the public-facing business. So they can be cited, the business can be cited for violation of this.
But if a business or organization has trouble with an employee or customer refusing to wear a mask, that's when other charges can come into play. Police can enforce trespassing laws in that situation.
I encourage businesses to be strong in enforcing it. Slowing the spread helps our economy, and these face coverings do that.
As for the 17 states with mask requirements, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania all started the mask requirement in April, and most of those states have seen a significant drop in cases. In May, 6 more states followed along. Out of those states, Rhode Island, New Mexico, Massachusetts, Maine, and Illinois are all reporting cases are staying steady or declining. But Kentucky also started their mandate in May and recently saw an uptick in cases. All 4 states that announced mask mandates this month have been trending up, like California and Michigan. Washington State will join North Carolina, starting a mask mandate on Friday.
Well, Aaron, I know you looked at all those states and their mask mandates. How did they handle enforcement of it?
Yes, most of those states were enforcing the similar ways that CMPD will be enforcing. We couldn't find any cases where an individual faced a citation, but we saw plenty of cases where businesses refused to serve someone because they weren't wearing a mask, and they did call police to ask to remove that person.
All right, Aaron, thank you. There is a new study that suggests where there are more masks, there are fewer new coronavirus cases. The research published in the journal Health Affairs, it estimates between 230,000 and 450,000 cases have been prevented in states that have enacted requirements between April 8th and May the 15th. They say the daily number of new cases dropped as much as 2% in those states. The study did have some limitations, though, including the inability to actually measure compliance. Researchers were only able to look at the numbers of confirmed cases. Wearing a mask in some cases has become a politically charged debate, and there's a lot of misinformation out there about masks. Today, Dr. Katie Passaretti with Atrium Health, who is an infectious disease expert, addressed the misconception that wearing a mask can have a harmful effect on your breathing.
You know, I've seen kind of rumors that you might get too high levels of carbon dioxide and have brain damage, and it's just not possible. You know, there's plenty of ventilatory aspects when you're wearing a cloth mask or surgical mask. So I would try to put that myth to bed.
And there are also a group of people who do not want to comply with wearing a mask because they believe that it violates their rights. The head of Reopen NC posted a video to Facebook last week urging people to burn their masks, arguing that masks don't do anything to protect you, even reading part of the label on a box of masks saying that a mask does not protect you from viruses. So we asked the doctor about that specific concern. What is the medical benefit of wearing a mask? And here's what she said.
So I can only speak to it from the infectious disease standpoint. So no mask is perfect, but we do know that masks on people that are either infected without symptoms or with symptoms help those large respiratory droplets that can be full of viral particles from being out in the kind of common areas, and which prevents the potential for spread to other people. They kind of are pointing to, does it protect me? The question is, am I protecting others by wearing this mask?